Welcome to South of Left Field. My name is Jimmy. For today, I guess the thing that's kind of brought me to a halt for the last couple of days was the sudden change in reporting of the COVID-19 cases. The instruction apparently coming out of the White House is that they're to stop reporting to CDC and start reporting to Health and Human Services through a application provided by a private company that's being paid under contract for all this work and no oversight. Somebody decided we're going to give it to them. No one else was given the option to bid. There's been a lot of noise, as you can imagine. Not surprising there's a lot of noise. And it's really got me thinking. Our postal service is being undercut and attacked by the administration. Now CDC is apparently being bypassed by the administration. There's been considerable noise about the accuracy of voting. The Supreme Court's just passed a ruling that actually supports poll taxes in Florida, and some of the headlines claim as many as 1 million people will be denied their ability to vote. Now, I know that both of the existing major parties have made it sort of part of their noise, their static, coming out of center right field about fraud in voting. Now, this is not something new. That people have alleged fraud all down the line. Sore losers, and their sore losers are universal. You'll find them in every country. You'll find them in every party. Fearmongers and sore losers, they really do prey on us. They try to instill in us fear. They try to break down our trust, which in its own way is ironic, because when you break down the trust of the people, you're going to break down some of the trust in you. This is a two-edged sword. This running to extremes in our press, this running to extremes in secondary and supposedly independent sources of news, this running to extreme by the political party hierarchies and by the candidates, I really worry about that. Now, here's the thing. I've said it many times. These two parties have coexisted for 150 years. For 150 years, between the two of them, they've had it locked up. And it's like driving on one side of an interstate. You've got a right lane, you've got a left lane. But the thing is, you've only got those two lanes, and both of those lanes run together. My point here is that the condition of America today is a result of these two lanes. We, as citizens, broadly allow ourselves to be herded like sheep into the polling station to support one of only two political parties. Yes, politics gets a little more complicated. It gets, more difficult. It gets a lot more noisy when you've got multiple parties at work. But see, here's the thing. You've got the same number of senators, the same number of members of the House, and the same number of presidents, one, no matter how many parties you get. We are all witness to a act. I mean, think about this. Let's look at the Democrats right now. Biden is suddenly, supposedly, on board with the Green New Deal, or some variant of it. Now, he's never done that before. Biden has never really been anything other than a reflection of whatever needs to be reflected to get elected. And that's pretty much the mantra for all of them, including Bernie, for that matter. Bernie, he definitely wants to reflect something that's not mainstream, and he does that. And he has people voting and keeping him in office because he's not a Republican and because he's not a Democrat. But the thing is, I don't look at it from the perspective of Republican and Democrat. I don't look at it from the perspective of right or left. I look at it from the perspective of we have an upper class. Our government, state and federal, is staffed by members of the upper class. The candidates are members of the upper class. The lobbying community are members of the upper class, and they're funded by the upper class. I look at this from the perspective of economics because the standard of living of Americans was pretty much at its peak, broadly speaking, coming out of the Second World War, when we had tax rates on incomes that were astronomical compared to what we've got today. When the inheritance taxes that are now euphemistically referred to by the politicians as death taxes, and they do that because, hey, we're rich, we make a lot of money, we want to give our kids a leg up. I want my kid to start life as a multimillionaire. Nah, you can't do that, but we can. We have been trained, we've been propagandized, our news is built around the question of whether any candidate or any issue is aligned with one or the other of two parties. And we are trained to believe that there is a tremendous difference between the two. Well, if you live inside of one or the other, well, of course there's a difference. You're standing on one side or the other, looking across the aisle, if you will, on issues. And that's all you ever see. And that's all you're ever going to hear in the news, because there's almost no way to step outside of this sick little game of control. To look at the two and realize that the issues that they fight over, the issues that they scream over, are not issues that affect our standard of living, our pocketbooks, our pay. And again, I am differentiating. Yes, it is us and them. You know, I mean, we don't own stocks in general. We don't have savings. We don't have, like the elected politicians in the federal government, health care and a generous pension for life. Oh, these poor poverty-stricken politicians that don't have to worry about getting high-quality health care, don't have to worry about being driven into bankruptcy to get health care, to pay for it, and actually can live the life of Riley on what they're going to get paid for life out of the taxes that everybody generally has to pay. Yeah, I'm on that horse again. Listen, the primaries, the whole game, this circus that fills so much of our lives has only really one purpose, and that's to keep us looking down at the rings in front of us, the right and blue ring, or red ring, and the left and the blue ring. It's a little two-ring circus. Smoke and mirrors and juggling acts and people swinging overhead. Everybody pretending, everybody putting on an act, everybody saying and doing whatever it takes to keep our attention focused on it. Too many Americans live the life that I lived as a young man. Because as a young man, I voted straight Republican. And I was lazy. And I didn't pay attention. And so it was very easy for me. Hey, I'll be a good citizen. All I have to do is show up at the polls, check the R's, skip the D's, did my duty. And the suspicion that the R's, and when I voted Democratic later in life, the D's weren't doing anything for me. I just accepted as that's how the system works. My message is that the system works that way because we don't rebel against it. Please consider, go rogue. Stop supporting the system. Stop voting for it. Stop giving money if you're one of those who can afford to do that. Stop giving money to it. It's not serving you. Our standard of living has been falling since the end of the Second World War. And it continues to fall today. And that's because we keep traveling down the same two lanes. And we refuse to run into the ditch and say, you know what, I'm going to stand over here. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to refuse to do what you want me to do. I am going to vote for something that I believe is more reflective of me and less obedient to you. Rebel. Join me in south of left field. Until next time, thank you for watching. Again, please share, please subscribe, please comment. Let's try and raise a ruckus. Let's be Americans. Let's be independent. See you later.